everybody. This is Uncle J of the Niger Made English group. I'm also the tutor of IELTS at Uze International, the center located in Enugu. I'm here to give a kind of a brief overview of what IELTS examination is all about. To begin with, it's an exam someone who has just finished or is through with the secondary school, someone who is through with the university study, or someone who is through with even primary school education can, take in preparation for a life overseas. So it's not an exam basically for academic students alone, it's also an exam for the general. The general aspect of IELTS is actually for those who want to reside in the overseas countries, but the academic one is not just for those who want to reside in the overseas countries, but also the ones who want to further their education there. So these are the two aspects of the IELTS examination. It's an examination that has four parts in terms of listening, in terms of speaking, in terms of reading, and then in terms of writing. All the four parts are scored over 9 each. So you can make 9.0 as a score or less than that. 9.0 is definitely an expert score, unlike the peak score. So there are various levels of scores you can make in the four different segments. Now they bring the scores together and divide it by 4 in arriving at what the final candidate score will be. What am I saying in essence? Listening is 9, reading is 9, speaking is 9, writing is 9, and out of all the 4 nines, the average will be arrived at, and the average will now determine the final score of the candidate. That is that about the introductory aspect of the IELTS examination. Thanks. Now, to stretch the scoring a little bit further, you can make score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And you can make score 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, 6.5, 7.5, and 8.5. However, there is a kind of score you make that will definitely be very, very poor. I think the list of score you should be able to go for should be 6. And 6 is a competent score. 7 is a good score. 8 is a very good score, while 9 is expert score. If you decide to go for 5, 5 is just a score of an average student that I will not say is a good score. Now, coming to the various exam parts, let's begin with listening. Let's have it at the back of our minds that listening and hearing are not the same thing. When you hear, it means that whoever is speaking is audible. But when you listen, it means you add reasoning to what you hear. You try to make sense, the appropriate sense, out of what the speaker has said. So listening is an important aspect of the IELTS exam because for someone to soar in English usage, you must be able to listen attentively to understand the speakers, to be able to respond adequately and effectively. So listening is an important aspect of the IELTS exam. You have 40 questions to attempt from the listening section. You are expected to listen well and provide answers appropriately. You need to be patient. You need to subject yourself to ability to manage your time while listening. You need to apply techniques that will favor you. If it means trying to stay ahead of the recording, if it means trying to even jump one or two questions so that you keep yourself, composed and in order to be able to provide the correct answers to other questions, that might serve. It's better you fail 3-4 and score 35, 33, 34 than that you try to get careless and lose a whole lot of marks. Remember that listening is one of the complex aspects of the IELTS examination, and a student really needs to do much to be able to build capacity to listen effectively. That's about the listening aspect. Another important aspect of the IELTS examination is the reading section. It's connected to comprehension. You go through a passage, you understand it, and then try to provide answers to questions asked. It's a very important aspect of the IELTS examination that requires a lot from the student to be able to handle effectively. Just like a pregnant woman, the much you can do is to encourage her, but she's still the one to go to the theater and have the baby. So every student going for IELTS must prepare himself or herself to be able to handle the reading aspect very well. There are various kinds of questions. All questions amount to 40, but of various types. We have the matching heading question. We have the summary question. We have the multiple choice question. We have the true false not giving question, that is TFNG, or the yes no not giving question, that is YNNG. There are various types of questions that are asked in this particular section, which is the reading section, and a student ought to prepare by looking at each of the aspects and then mastering each of the aspects to be able to handle it effectively within the given time. Another important aspect of the examination is the speaking section. The speaking section is the same thing for both the general and academic students. You are expected to, talk effectively. You are expected to talk confidently. You are expected to talk creatively, intelligently, and to also try to pronounce words correctly. There are 3 tasks. The first task is kind of where you'll be asked some questions on your person, questions on your family, questions on work or your interest. Then the task 2, you'll be given a card that you are expected to study and make up writing on for a minute, and then you'll be given 2 minutes to talk on it. Then the third aspect will be asking you question from the second aspect. After the questions, then that aspect of the exam comes to an end. Last segment has to do with the writing. Remember that it completes the circle of communication. We have the speaker and then we have the receiver. The speaker is the one that speaks and writes, while the receiver is the one that listens and reads. The writing aspect is actually where the IELTS student showcases his or her ability, understanding, and effective grasp of the language. It is the place the creativity of the student is expected to showcase itself, understanding of sentence creation, understanding of punctuation, and spelling. But bear it in mind that IELTS general writing is not entirely the same thing with IELTS academic writing. They vary in the area of their first tasks. For the academic students, the first task is phenomenological in nature. You have something to observe that you end up writing from. It could be a table, it could be a chart, it could be a picture. You study it very well and then write from it. But for the general student, the first task is letter writing. The second task is similar for both. In other words, IELTS general and academic student write the same thing in task 2, and it's expected to be an essay. Bear it in mind that task 1 is for 20 minutes, but task 2 is for 40 minutes. 1 hour and the writing examination is over.
Thank you so much. Do subscribe with us.